Alright, well, I'm sitting here in Plymouth, Massachusetts with my good friend Paul Stephen Stone, author of what?
Or so it seems.
Or So It Seems.
Or How to Train a Rock.
And How to Train a Rock. And I'm looking at this beautiful pond, and every once in a while he's generous enough to invite me out here, and my wife Diane. And I'm thinking about the Ibbetson Street Press and how we started in 1998 in a bagel shop, Brugger's in North Cambridge, with my friend Richard Wilhelm and Diane. I had been involved with a small press for many years, and I wanted to start a magazine. So it was a small stapled affair, as I like to say. It was rather primitive at first, but now, 14 years later, we're affiliated with Endicott College, and I have an office there, and we get funding, and we started very locally, and now we publish poets such as Marge Percy, who we're very glad to have. We featured her, did an interview with her. Ted Kooser, Alpha Michael Weaver, so many people, and so I'm glad to see the progress that we've had over the years. I think this involvement with books, and my house is covered with books. I mean, that's the motif, books and dusty. Started for my family. My great uncle Dave Kirschenbaum was a very prominent bookseller on the Lower East. Well, he started on the Lower East Side of New York as a pushcart peddler of books, and then later became a prominent bookseller on Book Row and the Carnegie Bookstore and several other bookstores. I said to him, Dave, everyone started out, it seems, in the Lower East Side. I said, Dave, did you know Gershwin? He says, yeah, he was a good kid. And so, I mean, that's the kind of milieu. Upstairs was Arthur Murray at the famous, dance studios. And all these people were just, in this milieu of the bustling milieu of the Lower East Side. And so we'd always get first editions and all kinds of books, and books were always a big part of my life. And so I guess it was just natural to get it into some fashion. Right now, we're promoting a book by, we've had published well over 60 books of poetry collections, and even some memoir. Right now we're promoting a book by Dennis Daly, who wrote this book, The Custom House, that's, got really good reviews from people like Richard Hoffman, who's a poet in residence at Ebbetson College and others, and won a Pick of the Month in the Small Press Review. We also published Boston Poet Laureate Deadbeats by Boston Poet Laureate Sam Cornish. I'm trying to think of other notable folks, but many over the years. A.D. Winans, who published an earlier chapbook some years ago of A.D. Winans. We've published a number of titles that were selected for the Mass Book Award, recommended books by the Mass Book Award. And the magazine itself has been over 31 issues. And we're working on, I think it's, 32 issue now. It's going to be the 32 issue. And again, we have a lot of great regional poets and some national poets, and even some from England that I've met. I met a lot of people through Poet Writer to Writer show that I have on Somerville Community Access TV. I've interviewed everyone from the Tony-nominated Elizabeth Swados, who's a playwright, but also a poet, and Major Jackson. I've had Paul Stephen Stone on. I've had just recently interviewed Deborah Spark, Michelle Hoover, so many.
And remember, you had your cell phone. I interviewed you for your show.
You interviewed me for your show. And another way I get to get out in the community is through my newspaper column, the Somerville News. Now, one would say community newspaper. But the Somerville News is located in a very strategic area. You have Harvard, you have Tufts, you're a lot of people, artists, writers, poets live in, as I say, the Paris of New England. And I've interviewed everyone from Tom Perrotta to Steve Almond, Pagan Kennedy, so many writers who live here. I'm trying. Gail Mazur. No, not Gail Mazur. There was another one. Massoud. M-E-S-S-U-D. I forget her first name, but she wrote The Empire of New York or something. Won an award. Martha Collins. Just the list goes on. Richard Hoffman. And the list goes on because of the way we're situated. I've had that opportunity for over a decade to interview people, and and I interview people either in the Somerville Community Access TV studios, or I've interviewed them at the Block 11 Cafe, or Sherman's Cafe in Union Square. So that's my little hangout. And also, I'm steeped in the literary tradition by working in McLean Hospital since 1982. And McLean's is a national literary landmark. It's interesting. A lot of stuff started with that poem hanging on the wall by Robert Lowell, Waking in the Blue, where I was working. And that talked about his time at Bowditch Hall, which I was working as a psychiatric patient. Interestingly enough, at that time, America's Favorite Poems was coming out. And Robert Penske, the once poet laureate, was looking for people to contribute, their favorite poem with an introductory essay or, paragraph, whatever. And I contributed that poem by Robert Lowell and my introduction to it, and it was published in Norton's publication, and it's a great project. And then I kept doing it. But the life of a poet, you start. Some people say I'm a poet, and they just figure they write a few things. It was gestating for years. I didn't publish. I'm 57 now. I didn't publish my first poem till I was 36. But all those years I was working in mental hospitals and things like that, taking notes and writing journals and reading and taking more notes and more notes and more notes, and then I started publishing. I got an MA from Harvard at night, going there at night. I'm not part of any MFA school. My poetry comes from, living in rooming houses, seeing all kinds of characters going through the back wards. I've been always interested in the marginal types of society. And my poetry is accessible, but I think it's been compared to Edgar Lee Masters. What's the name of that?
Spoon River
Anthology. Because I mostly do character studies. So I've been published in a lot of small press magazines. I've been in Rattle. My poetry has been in Steam Ticket, other things over the years. I write it, like I say, I write in an accessible style, and I don't know if I had any, poet mentors. I mean, I studied with Martina Spada at the William Joyner Center, but basically it's just, on my own writing and reading, and I'm glad I'm glad about that, because I think if you read some of my poetry, you'd say that's definitely a Doug Holden poem. It's a signature style. It doesn't seem like it's manufactured from, MFA exercises or something like that. Never been to McDowell or Yaddo or all that stuff. I tend to write in cafes. I don't need a little lunch box, put out of my cabin there, and write in isolation. I guess that's not new. I really never tried to apply for any of them. I guess it's not my major interest. But I like putting out the magazine, teaching at Bunker Hill Community College and Endicott College. I like the kids. Some of them come from very tough backgrounds at Bunker Hill. I like mentoring students, getting them internships. I like writing for the newspaper. I like Somerville, although it's changing rapidly, and God knows I'm pushed out because the subway's coming in and it's becoming very gentrified. But that's just the course of things. And the Bagel Bards, of course. Let me not forget them. That group of poets and writers. We're not stylish people. There's sort of a no bullshit. People have been around for a while, for the most part. We have some younger writers, but it's sort of a no bullshit place. A lot of people have been published in many places and taught, or some people are unpublished. It's very egalitarian. Anyone's welcome, and it meets at the Audubon Pan at Davis Square on Saturdays at 9 a.m. to 12. But you can come and go as you please. We have put out an anthology and all that. So I've met a lot of really great people and a lot of great times there. So, I just think that I'm proud what we've done over the years and how it's expanded. From just a small little magazine that we put out, which was stapled. A friend of mine got a copy of the Copycat. And that's how a lot of magazines started out, especially the real older ones were mimeographed affairs. Do you know what mimeograph is for people under 40? Stapled and just passed around hand to hand. Some of them stayed on, like Hanging Loose, which was put in a plastic. That's why they call it Hanging Loose. They put their poems in a plastic container with just loose pages in there, and they called it Hanging Loose. Now, of course, Hanging Loose is anything but that. It's very polished press. And I always tell people that small presses provide opportunities for poets, from Whitman to Allen Ginsberg to whatever, to go beyond, and a lot of them go beyond that. Some don't, but it's always offered the alternative. Which reminds me, there will be a small press festival at look up Medicine Wheel Productions in Ibbetson Street at the South Boston in South Boston. It's this huge loft and art gallery. My good friend, I try to remember her name. She's my good friend, but I can't remember her name now because I got a lot of good friends. But oh God, well, forgive me. But we're starting a big small press festival. It's going to be September 29th at 7 p.m. at the Medicine Wheel Galleries. Look it up on Google and have the exact information. Her name is Kathleen Bettetti, great woman, sharp as a whip, and is big arts activist and artist in her own meeting about this. And so that's all I have to say on this very pleasant